Welcome to the When Whit Happens podcast. This is a podcast that helps you find ways to celebrate and live your best life, even when stuff happens. Now here's your host, Whitney West.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the podcast. First and foremost, can we discuss that every time a new season starts, some bullshit happens wherein I miss episodes. This time it was a whole hurricane, so I'm not even gonna trip. But I think that this is the Lord being like, girl, you know you were supposed to pre-record. And I just felt like I should not pre-record just so that I could have some, fresh in real time perspective in case anything popped off. But now I see that I'm gonna have to pre-record some of these just to make sure that I have content out because the world just be happening and it don't really stop. And but that is what I'm gonna kind of talk about this episode because it's kind of been crazy. And I realized that weird things happening can be very stressful. And I think I have a little bit of PTSD as related to the aftermath of the hurricane because for instance, like I've been in places where power was lost for a couple of days before. It happened before with like some kind of crazy windstorm in Maryland. And we were out of power for like 2 or 3 days. Mind you, during snowpocalypse in 2010, when it was like 3 feet of snow, I didn't lose power, but wind in Maryland lost power when everything is underground. But anyway, my sisters were visiting. So one, I was not alone, um, and did not have to do like all the things of being in a storm alone kind of things. Like getting rid of all of your food. So kind of the backtrack, um, that was in the summer. This was it was kind of okay here, so it wasn't too hot. If it had been in the real summer here, I would have probably gone home immediately. Um, even with COVID. So like starting off, coronavirus is a thing, and with that being a thing, your plan for natural disasters is completely different. So if you're not in an area where natural disasters are regular during any time of the year, then it's something you may not have thought of. But like you can't really go to shelters like you could before. You can, but it's like a lot limited. And then it's just traveling is completely different. It's the most. So first thing, the storm was supposed to sideswipe New Orleans, and then it decided once it hit the coast to go due north, which put it going directly over New Orleans. So much so that the eye of the hurricane passed directly over us, which was a beautiful thing to see. Like nature is so crazy that like in the middle of the scariest thing, like there's beauty there, which is kind of a word in itself, but the sky was gorgeous at that time. It was so calm and peaceful. It was like nothing that just happened had happened. But obviously, you have the back of the storm that's about to come up. So, like, all that happened. I'm here by myself, no power. Um, and I'm thinking, okay, this will probably last like a couple days, a day or maybe a day, but not realizing how much damage that storm did. Wasn't much rain, but the wind was so strong that it was just destructive. And so the last time when this happened to me in Maryland, I was not on oxygen yet. So that was a whole concern that I did not have to worry about. It was just like trying to stay cool in a hot apartment. Um, and everything wasn't out of power. So we could easily like go find food and things like that. So in this case, I was on oxygen. So I already knew that I was going to end up spending a lot of time in my car because I would need to charge my portable oxygen and charge the extra batteries. And that even meant when I was in the house, I had to limit use so that I wouldn't run it down. And honestly, for the first like couple days and during the day and night, unless I was in the car, I wasn't using it consistently. And at night, the first night, I don't think I slept with it at all. I had it near me. And then I think I did it like sporadically the next couple nights. And then, or maybe the third night, I wore it the whole night until the battery ran out, which luckily was like in the morning. And so I had to immediately go to the car that morning. So to make sure everything was charged. But that was very stressful. Um, the thing about my condition is that I'm generally fine on room air when I'm just sitting. But obviously, when you're in your house and you're trying to do whatever, you're not only sitting. So you move around and do things, and I don't have a recovery source when I don't have the oxygen constantly, and I'm having to run it at a um, lower amount so that it doesn't run the battery on the machine as quickly. So like that was a layer of stress. And then we started nearing towards the 48-hour mark, and everything in my refrigerator has to go. And mind you, I just got a second freezer because of the pandemic, just to make sure I had things on hand. And I had just put a few things in there. All of that had to go. So I had to unload my entire refrigerator and freezer and new freezer and like get that food out of here because it was not good anymore or wasn't going to be good anymore. And so like all that completely sucked, and I had to do it by myself while on limited oxygen. Um and already 2 days tired and exhausted from dealing with everything that was going on. And so that was just a lot on itself, and I felt like I was on the verge of like doing too much, but luckily, um, the people here like me, and so they um, helped me take the stuff to the trash. They took it to the trash for me because I felt like if I had tried to like lug that stuff around those couple times, like I would have been like on the verge of having a flare up. But luckily that didn't happen. And then that next night I went to the hotel and my power came on like right before that, but I just needed to like get away and chill and relax. And so going to the hotel was stressful too. um, just because like not having been anywhere but my home to spend the night since the pandemic, like I hadn't even been anywhere. Like I've only used the restroom in my home other than until I went to the hotel. Like I have not been anywhere and have not really exposed myself to much of anything other than like going into the store. So when I got in there, I had to like spray everything with Lysol. I wiped down surfaces. Like it was crazy. And it's like these are things you have to do. Normally I could have just went to a hotel right off, and not have to think about these additional things that are going on because of coronavirus. And so just like dealing with the stress of like all of those things um was a lot, and it was new. And I think that fortunately I'm at a point of being very self-aware. um and I've always been pretty self-aware, but like I'm even more so when it comes to emotions, that I recognize that I have some PTSD from that, and I can talk to my therapist about that because my anxiety has been flaring up and I just haven't felt like myself. And I know I'm like doing a lot of stuff, going through that stuff and growing through it, and I just want to be able to acknowledge it and recognize it on the front end so that it doesn't become an issue on the back end. Because even when I got back home and the power was on, the internet was still knocked out. They had the storm knocked out a node or something with Cox, and it took them another 2 or 3 days to get it back on. And once it was back on, it was like election night. And then we all know the stress after election night. So these things were just like compounded upon each other. And then I'm also personally behind because other people had internet. So work started back on Monday. I couldn't go back to work till Wednesday. So there's a backlog there. I had assignments due on Sunday and Thursday that then had to get pushed because I could not complete them, which is another stress for me because I like to do things on time. I don't like to be late. I don't like to ask for extensions, but I had to like do that for my betterment. And I did, and I got the extensions, but it was like I had to catch up with it. So I'm trying to catch up with these things, write these papers, do these presentations while also then preparing for the next set of deadlines that are coming up, which is a paper that's due this upcoming Sunday, and then a paper that's due a little bit later, um, while I'm catching up. So the week and some I was supposed to have in between, the 2 weeks, sorry, that I was supposed to have in between the deadline became like a week instantly, which is stressful. And things are about to pick up at work again as well, right in the middle of registration time. So things have picked up, but they're about to get really, really crazy. So it was just like everything was really compounding, and not to mention not having any food. So initially, when the power and stuff went out, like I had a few things in here I can eat. I don't think anybody really prepared here because so many storms had missed us. But it's like I have food, but like I need real food too. And everything had no power. So you're having to drive around, try to be safe, because some of the lights are out. Find a place that is open. Find a place that is open that takes a card if you don't have cash. Luckily, I had some cash on me because the internet, remember, was down, so they could not swipe cards. So a lot of places were cash only. So go to the ATM before any kind of storms. Um, and then having to just try to eat and not try to order enough so that you can just eat for that meal. So you're like going to hunt for food several times if you don't have something that's like okay being left out because you can't refrigerate it because there's no power. And then like after all was said and done, it's like now I have to start replacing everything that was in my refrigerator and freezer. And luckily my friends and supporters and everybody are amazing, and people cash app and sent me some money so that I could like go buy food and replace things and go to the hotel. Like a friend of mine paid for my night at the hotel, which I'm so appreciative of. But it's like thankfully I have that much support, you know, on the outside, that I didn't have to take on some of that additional stress, but like I felt it like in my body that it was still like there. So I'm like just now, weeks later, starting to feel a little bit normal, but I'm trying to go ahead and knock out like the rest of my school work and things like that so that I can feel like I have even more time to breathe before the next semester starts because I really just need it. So I just wanted to give everybody the update on what was going on after the hurricane because I've started to get a few questions, and I know I might have missed 2 weeks. I don't even know. I've missed weeks. And I was like, this is going to be up late, but it's going to be up. And I'm just going to make sure that the season is still going to end likely at the end of December, and come back in February, I believe, or March. I can't remember. But I don't want to put that extra stress on myself of making up these episodes. If I do have extra episodes, I'm probably going to throw them out within 2 weeks, if that happens. But this has been like nothing else I've ever experienced. And I'm glad that I can recognize that in myself, and I'm going to talk to my therapist about it and go from there and see what I can do. But self reflection and working on yourself and having somebody like a therapist or a friend to talk to that can be your baseline is so important. Like, if I had not been just talking through my emotions and talking about things and making sure I'm clear on my baseline of how I generally feel and when something is stressful for me or and recognizing where feelings come from, I don't know how I'd be feeling right now. Obviously, I still feel stressed, but at least I know what the source is, and I have a plan of attack to deal with it. So let me know if you have any more questions about anything that happened with the Hurricane Zeta. Um, and I will talk to y'all later. Hopefully, hurricane season is over. We're still going. Hurricane Iota just crossed land somewhere in the Caribbean. And I'm just hoping that the Gulf of Mexico is cool enough so that nothing else comes near us. Otherwise, I'm just gonna leave and never come back. You can have this apartment, you can have everything in it. I don't want to live by the Gulf anymore if that happens. But yeah, I will talk to you all soon and hope you have a great week. Bye.
Thank you for listening to When Whit Happens. You can find Whitney living her best life at thewhitneywest.com and at The Whitney West on social media. Subscribe and follow for updates. Until next time, keep living your best life.